So RID, right?
The Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf.
Yeah. So how long do you have to study to get that?
That certification? You don't have to study at all. You can just go ahead and take the test. If you pass, you pass.
Right.
It's kind of like the bar. If you could just take it and if you pass.
I was really curious about that. What do the tests look like? So you go there, you enter the room. What happens?
Usually, if you're in a big city, you're gonna have at least 100 people taking the first part, which is the written test.
Written test.
It's just multiple choice. So
what does it talk about? What kind of questions
like
do you
the
get?
history of sign language, like the important laws, like this law did what, and it was you choose like A, B, or C, or D, right?
Okay.
So it was 150 questions.
Okay.
It's about 3 hours,
Okay.
and you have to get 120 right, or 130 to pass.
80%.
80%, yeah. And after that, you gotta wait 6 months.
Oh.
no, sorry. Actually, I think it's you wait 2 weeks for your results, but then the next part is the performance test.
Oh, I see.
And there's a long waiting list for that.
Oh.
And the performance test is they have a camera and a television. At least when I took it, I don't know about now, because they have a new test. They would show a video of maybe a deaf person signing, and then you would be speaking and interpreting. And that video camera would record everything you say.
Okay.
Then you'd have the opposite. Someone speaking and you would sign. Alright? And then you have both a deaf person and a hearing person like sitting together and like they're interviewing each other. Well, the deaf person's being interviewed for a job. And then you would speak and sign and basically interpret, yeah.
Right.
So
so it's a hard test.
I mean, it's not easy, yeah. You can go ahead and take it, pay the $400 or whatever, but if you don't study, for the written part, you need to study.
Right.
The performance part of it, yeah, you have to be able to sign and interpret.
Okay. When did you feel this? When was this turning point, like a click? Okay, now I get it. It's actually cool. Like it's not them being stigmatized. I'm actually being a professional now. I can use it to my advantage, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I think there was like a few steps. So the first step was, I guess, graduating high school. My mother came with me to my graduation, and we were signing, of course, and my other classmates who saw us, they were like, oh, sign language is pretty cool, right? So that was the first step. I guess the second step was when I went also to college. My parents came with me, and some people were just walking by, they were like, oh, sign language. And then the ASL class, that was a positive reinforcement. So I guess it was like many positive reinforcements that helped overcome the many years of negative reinforcement. And then finally going into the LaGuardia Community College and the interpreting program.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah, they were really great. Like you learn everything about deaf culture, and I was like, what the heck is deaf culture? And they were just saying stuff like,
it's really interesting because you were growing up in a home where it was like deaf culture.
Right. And I had no idea that was deaf culture.
Why?
I just thought my parents were being weird. Like imagine if like I guess it's similar for any
bilingual home.
Or like even like an adopted child, right? When they're taken from their country, and they're not taken. Let's say adopted from their country and brought to a different country, and they grow up learning one culture, and then when they find out like, oh no, there's a whole other side of it, and they go back and they're like, whoa, okay, I see. It's like an eye opener. It's like it's not just my family that does this. A lot of other families do this that are deaf. So yeah.
Okay. So at some point, so you graduated, you got your RID certification, right? Yep. And then you thought, what? Okay, I'm done.
Oh no! While I was studying, I was also working, and so I was working as a non-professional sign language interpreter.
What does it mean, professional or non-professional?
Well, professional means like you're certified, and that guarantees professionalism. For the first, I guess, two years, I was working as a non-professional sign language interpreter, and so some agencies, sign language interpreting agencies, will hire people who are not certified, but they'll pay them less. And I really, I wouldn't recommend people who, if I was a deaf consumer, I would require a professional sign language interpreter.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to risk getting a non-professional sign language interpreter.
Where did you used to work? Was it hospitals or some kind of?
Yeah, just a lot of different places, schools, hospitals. It could be at a funeral, wedding, churches.
That's difficult.
Yeah, it's like a whole range of everything.
Yeah.
I guess the most difficult would be the court.
Yeah, because of the
like
terms.
Terms and it doesn't. Some of the stuff they say doesn't even make sense to people
Hearing people.
Yeah, hearing people. So how do you explain it so that it makes sense to deaf people?
Right.
And then how much of an interpretation can you do before it seems like you're helping the person, right? So it's very difficult. It's the same for any I guess foreign language interpreter.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you maybe remember some kind of a nice story or a horrible story from that time when you were interpreting, but you were not a professional yet? Was there something that was just, oh my god, that was a bad day, or wow, that was a bad day?
Yeah, it was one really bad one. I was at a funeral, and somebody called me up and they said, "Can you please take over for me?" Because they couldn't do the job. So I said, "Okay, fine." And I went to the church and I was interpreting, but unfortunately I misspelled the deceased person's name.
Oh.
So.
Misspelled how badly? Like one letter or?
Oh, I think the last name was what threw me off, and I just spelled the first name and I didn't understand the last name, so I think I went halfway and I just decided to stop, and because the preacher's still talking.
Right.
And also I didn't know that the person who passed away had a signed name.
I see.
Right? So that was also, I think, something that I should have researched beforehand. Like, what was should have known their sign name, for sure. Their name is usually posted, so I should have made sure to look at that. But I was like so nervous.
Right.
Another one was another funeral. One of the people who came up to speak started crying and just bawling. And luckily I was there on an internship with my other professors who were sign language interpreters. So I was up and they started crying and I didn't really know what to do. So the deaf people were watching me, and I looked at my teachers and they said, just point to the person crying. And so I just pointed, and then I just stepped back down and sat down so that they can have that moment. Yeah. So I guess it was a great learning experience. You just take yourself out of that moment, because I could be distracting, right? Like I didn't have to. You don't have to sign. Oh, they're crying and crying now, and they're still crying. Like it's just really unnecessary. It's like you could see that happening. So I took myself out of that. So that was good. Yeah.
That's a good story. Yeah. My next question is, what is a good sign language interpreter in your opinion?
My opinion, I think with any sign language or with any interpreter, that person has to know that culture, right? We all use Google Translate, and we all know how it gets screwy because it doesn't know the culture, it doesn't know the nuances. So if you have a person who's interpreting like Google Translate, right? What are you saying? It doesn't make any sense. They don't know the nuance. They don't understand. You have to be a people person as well.
Right.
Right. So, knowing the culture, knowing the people, being empathetic, as well. That also is really important.
In that story, when someone was crying, right? If you're a people person, you could kind of go and help maybe, or your reaction would be like, what should I do? Maybe I should go and help this person. But also as a professional, as an interpreter, you kind of can't do that all the time, right?
Right.
Do you want to be kind of at the back of the room, kind of like behind that person you're signing for, or you can be in their face and you can be expressive and kind of loud in what you do.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes a professional, right? You know when it is acceptable and when is it not acceptable, right? So in that situation, of course, there was the preacher. They could have also helped, right? So it wasn't my place, right? So I knew it wasn't my place. I came in as an outsider,
Right.
and so I was like, that's whoever wants to help, that's what they're gonna do, right?
Right.
If I did that, it'd be kind of a little weird.
Right. Who is that guy?
They wouldn't think that it was bad, but they would think it's a little weird.